It's a slap in the face. Get taken advantage of during your career by women and alcohol and all of these things, right? To taking advantage of the up and coming athletes. What's up, everybody? It's your girl B Octavia, and I am back with another video. Now this week, as I told y'all, I probably told y'all I told y'all earlier this week that we are going to have back-to-back uploads. So that's what we're doing right now. Make sure that you checked out Monday's video and Tuesday's video. And also make sure that you click that bell. You got to be subscribed to do all that. So today is athlete controversy. In my disclaimer of this series, I can't tell you about a person's stats. I am not a sports fanatic. I may go to a game. That doesn't mean that I know what's going on. But what I can talk to you about is a lot of different controversies that athletes have been tied to, things they've been accused of, and the end result of said things. Now that we got that all figured out and you know my perspective on it, you know my POV, let's jump right into this video. Today's episode of Athlete Controversy will be about a retired athlete, among others who have been intertwined in a welfare scandal. Although there is 40+ people that are named in this lawsuit, the most notable name mentioned is Pro Football Hall of Famer Brett Favre. This retired quarterback is in extremely hot water after news exploded about Mr. Favre allegedly committing fraud under a few companies/organizations as a private investor. We are going to go through the ins and outs of this lawsuit. First, let's get Brett Favre's track record out of the way so we know exactly who it is that we're talking about. Brett Favre has had 20 long years in the NFL, starting with the Atlanta Falcons in 1991. His last year playing was in 2010. 6 years into Brett Favre's retirement, he was inducted into the Football Hall of Fame. From that quick synopsis, you know who I'm talking about, okay? Brett Favre has been named as a possible conspirator in a Mississippi welfare fraud scandal. The workings of this lawsuit started roughly 2 to 3 years ago in 2020. A Mississippi state auditor became suspicious of certain individuals tied to an organization. After starting the investigation and going through documents, the state auditor arrested 6 people they accused of mishandling federal funds. These funds were dispersed by the Mississippi Department of Human Services. The funds were dispersed by them to a drug corporation named. This corporation/company says that they develop and promote a certain drug or various drugs dedicated to concussion treatment. And if you just say that, okay, yeah, that's really cool. That's really good. But were they actually creating certain drugs that helped athletes? I don't think so. One way Brett Favre fits into this fraud is that he is named as a private investor, but I would like to add one word: a private top investor. He himself held events, spoke at conventions, etc. in promotion of these said concussion treatments. These companies that I'm speaking of are under the umbrella of one man, Mr. Van Landingham. Brett Favre has stated previously that he has invested $1 million plus of his own money towards these companies because he believed in them so much. This lawsuit states that after a proper audit was performed, it was discovered that these two Florida-based companies collected more than $2 million that were meant solely for needy families. It also alleges that 53-year-old Brett Favre helped move the money collected into a biotech startup in which he himself had already invested. It would not surprise me if he was the one that set that biotech startup or had helped to do so, but that's just me speaking on how I view it. It probably was set up for that reason and that reason alone. This lawsuit states that the state of Mississippi is seeking $20 million back for the fraud that was committed. So it makes me think, did all of these men, did all of them receive $2 million apiece? Because $2 million is in $20 million, but $20 million ain't $2 million. So, did all of y'all get a huge piece of the pie for not creating a concussion treatment that would help athletes around the world? That sucks. So, the concussion drug companies were posing as a nonprofit. This nonprofit was supposed to provide a product or several products to help athletes who suffer from mild to very severe concussions and or to prevent the concussion from even going down, you know, and making it life or death. With Brett Favre speaking, I'm going to list a few things that were his roles, were things that he publicly did in efforts to get more investors and get people to invest just as he did. Brett Favre, from what a lot of people would say, had a very fruitful career. But at the same time, people, I'm sure, took advantage of him even in the slightest way. You know, Klingon friends that just want to be around for the benefit of his wallet and etc., etc. It's a slap in the face to get taken advantage of during your career by women and things to that nature and alcohol and all of these things, right? And go about your way after you're retired to taking advantage of the up-and-coming athletes, the athletes that are the now. Don't do that. Okay, so number two. Number two is like number one, but I'm going to still say it. A drug like that or, you know, a product like that could be of great benefit. It could do a lot of good or a lot of bad. And that would depend on a lot of things that I'm sure they can't prove. You know, like if it matters how much the athlete weighs, how severe the damage would be, if the product would still work in certain different circumstances, or whether what's going on. Seeing how some athletes meet an early demise from things like concussions, I would want to believe in their intentions. You know what I'm saying? And listen, they got a hell of a spokesperson, but he ain't just gonna be no spokesperson. He want his piece of the pie. And he got it. Now, the biggest slap in the face is number three. So, I spoke on him doing speaking engagements and doing marketing and promo for these companies in hopes to get a lot of investors and a lot of believers. Why did this man Brett Favre go to his hometown and do these things and have people from his hometown invest because they loved him as an athlete? He made the city look good, etc., etc. He done made people invest in nothing, in no product, just because he talked good. You feel what I'm saying? That's basically all it was. And in hopes for him to possibly recoup that $1 million or so that he invested. Brett Favre has also publicly said in his marketing campaign that the NFL was key advisors and associates of Van Landingham, making him credible and trustworthy, even though nobody knew what a Van Landingham was. And again, that was an attempt to make their product seem believable and achievable. And who knows, down the line, with some good folks who have good intentions, this could be something that would help. It was all an attempt to gain and receive more donations and investors. That's all I see. Okay, this claim by either Van Landingham or Brett or both of them had to be debunked by the NFL Commission themselves. The NFL Commission stated that a representative reached out to the NFL for a meeting, but, and I quote, the league provided no funding or resources in support of its efforts. Brett Favre has stated, after all of this blew up, he stated that he had no idea where the money came from. He said that he had no idea that the money that was received was for needy families, but the head of these companies said the same thing. And the head of these companies also pleaded guilty to these fraud charges. So what does that tell ya? Now, while Mr. Favre isn't facing any jail time, which I don't understand, the public scrutiny, people from your hometown feeling robbed or like he entrapped them, and being a Hall of Famer with this type of smut on your name, some people honestly crumble once the real them is finally revealed to all. Even though he isn't facing any jail time, time will only tell how much he has to pay back. Okay, so in conclusion, him being a huge part of the marketing and talking about these products and what they're made of and what they do and etc., etc., it would be hard for me to believe that you didn't know other behind the scene things. It's kind of hard to believe that he didn't know where the money came from if allegedly he is the person that moved the money from one place to another in attempts to hide it, in attempts to let that money make money and double, quadruple, whatever his plan was. He sure did move that money fast, okay? Don't you know how some people say like, oh, a man in such and such place got a deposit from a bank that he wasn't supposed to get. He got $10 million in his account. And if it drop in the bank account, some people won't touch it. They'll report it to the bank or to officials so they don't get in trouble. Or it'll be, say it's a situation where two people or one person come upon a bag, open up the bag, and it's tens and thousands of dollars in it. Some people would call the police and turn in this bag, and not even think about expecting anything because they knew it wasn't theirs. If you get a deposit of some sort and you really don't know where it's coming from or why, if this is not FDA approved, meaning the products, and it's no purpose within your nonprofit except hearing you talk about it. I don't see y'all changing the lives of athletes mentally. They could have did a lot within that marketing that would have made it like, okay, we're really doing this for the athletes. But honestly, I get $2 million in my account. Some people will say, I'm taking it and running. They trying to trap me right now. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, the nonprofit that they created and that he was a frontline man for. Because when you're an investor, who said that you got to be the one on the cameras? Who said that you got to use your likeness to gain investors and donations? That's wrong. And I don't believe him. I don't believe that he didn't know where this money was coming from. I believe the bosses knew, of course they knew. But a nonprofit gets federal grants and stuff from the government all the time, so they wanted a piece of the pie even though it was the wrong piece. And this isn't the first scandal that Brett Favre has been in. Due to his excessive drinking, he was banned from the NFL in 1996 temporarily. He did do a stint in rehab about, let's say, 60 days, if that. It was said that due to his excessive drinking, he had a really bad seizure, you know what I'm saying, in the late 90s, almost 10 years into his career. So I'm glad that in some ways he turned things around. But let me talk about this other scandal. In 2010, he was accused of sexting and saying inappropriate things to a young lady via text message that worked for the Jets. And then now this. So I won't say that all of these situations are alike. You feel what I'm saying? But as a retiree, he's probably had a lot more time to drink now, and he doesn't really have a reason to stop. I'm not saying he's an alcoholic. I'm just saying. And honestly, maybe his judgment of trusting these gentlemen from Florida and getting into business with people he had no idea backfired on him. You know what I'm saying? But you always gotta be aware and ask questions, because if he's saying he genuinely didn't know, it's still his fault because he didn't ask any questions about getting that money. Okay, if you have a product or several products that have not been created, you might have some models for it or whatever, like some prototypes and things like that. But if these products have not been FDA approved and they're not in the process, and you invest $1 million in it, how do you expect in 1 or 2 short years, a few short years, that you would get $2 million back for a drug? No, ma'am. No, sir. No football player. No quarterback. No. No. That's not how. That ain't even how the Ring doorbell thing happened. Okay? That's not how the Scrub Daddy thing happened, or whatever it's called. That's not how that happened. You feel what I'm saying? So, yeah. I want y'all to sound off in the comments below. It's your girl, B. Octavia. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell to be notified.